It is the 11th day of October 2019 and this is the Live Real Talk. Karibu sana. Asante bro. And tonight on the Live Real Talk, my name is Kassim, your host this evening. We will be talking about the historic Interior CS Honorable Dr. Fred Matiang'i to Jamia Mosque, where he visited the mosque on 7th October this year, 2019 of course, and some discussion took center stage. Join me as we're talking about those things. War on drugs, Assalamu alaikum Kassim. War on drugs, war on baiting, extrajudicial killings, Muslim documentation, among many more. Joining me to discuss some of these issues that were discussed, Muslim leaders of course handed over their complaints to Honorable Dr. Fred Matiang'i, and of course he responded to them. Join me tonight as we are talking about them, and in the evening, this evening in the studio we have Assalamu alaikum. The Namlef Chair Sheikh Abdullahi Abdi, Assalamu alaikum, and ex-National Police Service Commissioner, I'm talking about Mr. Mohamed Murshid, who is also an advocate. Karibuni sana. Gentlemen, moving in quite fast, the historic visit of Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i, something that has never been witnessed before. I'd love to hear your comments first before we proceed. Starting with you, Sheikh Abdullahi Abdi.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, may I take this opportunity once again to thank you for inviting us to share our views with your listeners. The visit of Dr. Matiang'i should not surprise anybody. He is a minister of the government of Kenya.
Yes.
And he is somebody serving the people of Kenya. So we have got rights to ask him to call him for consultation and for him to advise us on several issues.
Okay.
So it is, however, very pleasing to note and to tell our listeners that the manner in which he responded was very, very encouraging. Normally, he's a very busy man. With one telephone call, he accepted the call.
Yes.
And within less than a week, he came to Jamia so that we can discuss these issues.
And the fact that something like that has never happened before, I mean, don't you think it's historic, Commissioner?
Yes, indeed it is. And what is striking is most of the problems which are faced by the Muslim Ummah fall under his docket. Starting from registration of persons to issuances of IDs, passports, the Hajj passport issue, issues of marginalization when it comes to getting these critical documents, issues of security and insecurity. So these are things that are under his docket, and coming at so soon after His Excellency's visit, there was a pattern to it.
Thank you. Santi Sana, this is not the first time the Muslim leadership is engaging with government officials, is it?
It isn't.
Exactly. And a lot of issues were raised, and that I'm sure this was not the first time those issues to be raised. What makes us think or feel that this time maybe a change might be coming on the way?
Faisal, I want us to look at this slightly differently. What you said is very true. Issues were raised. But the meeting, which was started by the invitation of Jamia Mosque, was not purely to complain. It was to establish relationship with the administration, particularly with the Ministry of Interior. Like you rightfully put it, there has been several complaints before. Sometimes we got results, sometimes we didn't get results.
I said several engagements before.
Yes. So it does not help for us to repeat doing the same thing.
Yes.
On analysis, we found that there is a break in terms of our communication lines. So what is very, very encouraging this time is we have established a coordination mechanism whereby there's going to be continuous consultation between Muslim leaders and the Ministry of Interior. It is also encouraging to note that some of the issues that we did raise, we got responses there and then. We are going to discuss about those issues later, but it is very, very important and crucial to note that a committee is being set up that will be having continuous discussion with the ministry. Names will be submitted to that office, and a committee will be set up which is going to be include himself as the CS in charge, and we'll be discussing continuously issues that affect the Kenyan public in general and Muslims in particular.
Interesting. One of the things that took the center stage in that discussion was matters documentation. And there is a footage, my director on matters documentation, if you can kindly play that footage from the Interior CS, Dr. Fred Matiang'i. Suleiman, are you ready? We have.
Let me address the question of registration documents. It is true, and I have engaged several times with Muslim leaders in the country about registration documents, birth certificates, IDs, passports. And actually during 2 years ago, about 3 years ago, during Hajj, it became a big issue. The President asked us to set aside a desk to address travelers for Hajj. And the honorable members of parliament and leaders from the Muslim community, that time led by Senator Yusuf Haji and the Honorable Duale came, and advised us. And actually, as a result of that advice, we set up the desk and look what we have achieved. I know it may not have worked 100% and supported everyone, but the bulk, over 80% of the challenges we had at that particular time were solved and were sorted out. And I am pleased to announce to you this afternoon that within this financial year, we now have resources to open up new registration and immigration structures in the north. We're going to revive our office in Garissa, and we will open it up by December, so that now we provide services, and those brothers and sisters who come from that part of the country don't have to travel all the way. And we will co-locate all the services: a civil registration service for birth certificates, national registration services, because we'll take up the office of the National Registration Bureau, and then the immigration office we will co-locate. And I want to assure you, leaders, that before the end of this year, we will now have those services available, and people do not have to travel long distances to get them.
Thank you so much, my director Suleiman Achesov Tumbo, for that soundbite there. That is Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i talking, of course, again, giving promises. Something that has been given before, a promise that has been given before, that basically the Muslim documentation is going to change. But until today, we are looking at discriminatory vetting, where only Muslims have to go through vetting. Further into that, we're looking at the Nubian community that still, until today, they're facing marginalization. They have to go through 3 tiers of vetting before they get to be identified as a citizen of this nation, either to get the birth certificate or the ID or the passport for that matter. Commissioner,
Yes.
what are we looking at?
You see, the 2010 Constitution is clear with its parameters. And if you look at Article 27, that you shall not be treated in a manner to suggest that you are not equals. If you go through the law in terms of registration documents for citizenship, there is a prescribed number of documents that are required. But you will find that, and picking your sentiment, that when it comes to Muslims, there is an additional aspect, as people complain, that they are being vetted. Maybe a way of looking at it is some of us come from border communities, whereby because of bordering neighboring countries, for example, towards Tanzania and to the north of the Kenyan coast towards Somalia, there would be people who are falling in between either of the borders, and probably that could be a reason why they should be vetting. But again, the manner in which that needs to be done has to be done with a lot of sensitivity, as not to suggest that you are required to prove, to go an extra mile to prove your citizenship status. Because the moment I have a birth certificate, I have my parents' birth certificates, I have other supporting documents, which will no doubt suggest that I am Kenyan, including the way you can master the language, the way you schooled, yes. Then there shouldn't be a lot of rigors. And the problem is, it's not the senior officers who would be the ones who give you the impression that you're being treated differently. It is that person on the ground. The person gets so insensitive as to border on impunity, or language that would suggest he is spiting you. Yeah? So that leaves you with a general feeling that you are being treated differently when it comes to the issuances of these vital documents.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, for your sentiments. I'd love to hear what my senior would have to say regarding the same issue on matters identification and documentation. You've clearly, I'll just pick something from what you've said about some coming from the border communities. Of course, that's perfectly fine. Maybe our porous borders might, is not enough to filtrate the Kenyan citizens from the non-Kenyan citizens. But again, look at the Nubian community again. The same example that I'll go back to. Look at the Nubian community, born and bred in the heart of Kenya's capital, Nairobi. Still have to go through the 3 tiers of vetting until they get the documentation. Mzee.
Faisal, we can't run away from the reality. Discrimination has been there up to a certain level. However, we are also quite aware that even other than the Muslims, even the non-Muslims in this country go through some of this discrimination. Some of these things do happen, not because it is within the framework of the law of this country. It is not by administrative instructions. Sometimes it is by people down below, much, much below. One thing we cannot run away from, which is also a reality. Corruption has penetrated the fabric of this society. And Muslims particularly have become not only victims, even promoters of corruption. Your own right for you to go and demand for an ID, which you can get probably delayed for 6 months, for 5 months, and then you get it. Because you want to facilitate, you go and bribe. Now, once you continue doing that, you're establishing a culture. And when you see a Muslim has walked into the room, you know money has come into the room. So what happens is, while it is your right to get it without paying a shilling, you will be forced to pay. And finally, because that has been established as the reality of how Muslims should get their documents, then you can see a document being delayed much, much more longer than required. On the issue of the Nubians, I fully agree with you. The Nubians is one community in this country that have been humiliated, that they have been denied their rightful place within the society. It's not only the ID. We can talk about the land issue of Kibra. You know, we can discuss this at great lengths. It is injustice. It is not in the law books. It is not in practice, but it is something that needs to be visited. In fact, as far as I am concerned, the Nubian community, together with the Muslim leaders of this country, should get together and file a case on the injustices that has been done to the whole community. Not only the ones who live in Nairobi, all over the country, whether you talk about Baringo, Nakuru, or Kisumu. I think it's an issue that we need to pick it up.
Should we be expecting that anytime soon?
First of all, let me tell you, we try to engage. Some of the things I don't want to openly discuss on the TV. On the issue of the land, there's a time we try to engage the government, and we even got the go-ahead. And we are about to recover 720 acres for the Nubians, for reasons that were beyond us. And not to be blamed on the government also. We couldn't move ahead. I don't want to discuss them in details here. And you know, right now the land has been reduced to basically 200 something.
288 acres.
There you are.
Just one thing. I just want to get clear. You said officers below. Some of these things that are being done, of course, at the lower levels, they are not captured in the constitution. Basically, they're not part and parcel of the Kenyan law. Do you wish to mean that the government has weak structures?
It's absolutely clear, Faisal. The whole society is rotten. I don't want to talk about the civil servants alone. Kenya is a society where we require a revolution to change the thinking of Kenyans. We are all corrupt. It starts from the top end to the bottom. So any officer or any individual who is holding any position wants to utilize that official office to benefit himself. And it has become an acceptable thing. Since Kenyans cannot get service which they are rightfully deserve to get, what they do is they bribe. Whether you want a contract, whether you want a form, whether you want admission to school, whether you want even facilities to be given within hospitals.
It's a rotten system.
It's become a culture. So it is not only the civil servants that we need to blame.
Any hope in the future?
Of course, as Muslims, you know, we always have hope. We never lose hope.
Thank you so much. I'd love to hold you on that thought, because this is where we break on a very short break. But we will be back talking about matters which are quite close to Commissioner's heart, matters security, because he served in the National Police Service Commission. Commissioner, we'll be talking about that after the break. Please do not go away. Let us pay your bills.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Akawa Abdul Muttalib ampenda sana Mtume sallam hata kushinda watoto wake. Na Abdul Muttalib, Mtume Muhammad sallam alikuwa ni mjukuu wake. Abu Talib na babake Mtume sallam limba ndugu tumbo moja, mama moja, baba moja. Baada ya miaka miwili Abdul Muttalib kufa, alipofika miaka 10 wakaamua kufunga safari kwenda Sham, kwenda kufanya biashara. Faqala rahib, huyu mtoto akifika akionekana dola ya Rum watamuua. Akaamua kurudi kuweza kuishi katika mji wa Makka kwa mara nyingine.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Thank you so much, Mohamed Gitongo, for the countdown, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about the historic visit made by the Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i to Jamia Mosque. And with me in studio this evening to talk about these issues, some of these issues that took center stage, I have the NAMLEF chair, that is Sheikh Abdullahi Abdi, and ex-National Police Service Commissioner, that is Commissioner Murshid. Welcome, gentlemen. Talking about matters extrajudicial killings. As my producer is preparing that footage by the Interior CS, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, to hear what he had to say about it, listen to this. The Human Rights Report, in a report that was released August this year, says that at least 21 men and boys were killed. This is the only recorded. The specific cases that were documented were 21. This is according to the researcher Otsieno Namwaya. He says the specific cases that were documented were 21. But we heard of many more, said the organization's lead researcher. What we heard was the police would raid houses at night, force victims to kneel down, but the police would go ahead and shoot them. Suleiman, do you have that footage? Do you have the footage?
The question of extrajudicial killings has been raised here. And I'll speak very openly about it. It is true, as my brother and colleague, the Inspector General of Police, says, the government of Kenya does not have a policy on extrajudicial killings. Where extrajudicial killings exist elsewhere in the world, it's part of government policy. It's a part of the security sector policy. That is how they have decided to manage their security. We in Kenya do not have an extrajudicial killings policy. That when we suspect that people have committed a crime, we kill them or we go after their life. There is no such policy in our security sector. And we've engaged with leaders from within the Muslim community. And I want to tell you very frankly, where there are cases or where there are suspicions, they are investigated. Because, as the Inspector General has said, we are a rule of law government. Our president is very firm about this as Commander-in-Chief and Head of State. We are a rule of law government, and respect for life is paramount for us. And it's not our responsibility as the executive branch of government to determine the guilt or innocence of anyone. Where there are cases of misbehavior on the part of our colleagues in the security sector, they are investigated. And we cooperate fully with independent officers, IPOA and the others. We have reformed the internal affairs unit of the police force. In fact, we moved it out of the police service and created a separate office for the internal affairs unit, so that you don't have to be shy to go to police headquarters to report there. You go to an independent office, and with the help of the National Treasury, and some of our development partners, we have created probably an institution of its own kind in this region, in the Internal Affairs Unit offices that we have in Upper Hill. Now, Kenyans can independently go and make a report. They can even call in, they can send videos, and where reports have been made, we have investigated them.
Thank you so much, Suleiman of Tumbo there. Commissioner, I'd love to start with you. Clearly said, we have no policy like many other countries on extrajudicial killings, but this is a matter that has taken us ages to put to rest. What is wrong where?
You see, when the Honorable Minister says that there is no policy on extrajudicial killings, it means exactly that, which also means that if a police officer is found committing extrajudicial killings, investigations need to take place. And there is a unit which has been set up in the service called Internal Affairs Unit. It's an independent unit from the police service, but it is drawn from officers of the service. I know of it because I was somehow party to its development. In that unit, if you send a complaint, not only about extrajudicial killing, but any excessive action by police officers, be it bribery, you have been beaten, for example, and any other act of excesses, you report the matter to the Internal Affairs Unit.
Internal Affairs Unit.
Yes, they do have the mechanisms and the capacity to conduct investigations over the matter. And if a police officer is found culpable, there are two ways of dealing with it. First of all, it's dealt within the service. And if the police officer is to be demoted or removed from office, the matter goes to the National Police Service Commission, where they have the final say after reviewing the matter, whether that person, that officer needs to be removed from the service. It may not end there, because other than it being a discipline against the service, it could be a criminal matter.
How different is it from the Independent Police Oversight of the Authority, which is actually a different body altogether?
No.
Members of this commission,
Yes.
not derived from the service,
Yes.
we expect much more independence
Yes.
compared to the Internal Affairs Unit.
The way it is wired, the Independent Policing Oversight Authority is a civilian body. But what oversight does it do? It oversights the work of the Internal Affairs Unit. The moment a complaint is generated with the Internal Affairs Unit, it is bounced on IPOA, so that they can start monitoring the progress of that complaint. So that if there is foot dragging on that complaint, IPOA can take it up. But if it is a matter which is aggravated, like killings, then you will find that the IPOA would take it up directly upon themselves to investigate the matter. And once done, again, the avenues are two. It goes to the National Police Service Commission if it requires a demotion or a removal, and to the DPP for prosecution for criminality. So there is an institutional framework to deal with these matters of errant police officers. Again, the problem would be in terms of evidence gathering. If that incident has happened, you will find that there's the person who made that complaint, whether he wants to hide or she wants to hide the identity or not, they have to provide evidence which will lead the Internal Affairs Unit or IPOA to effectively investigate the matter to its conclusion. Where the weak link would be is in terms of recording, tabulating this evidence, and this is where civil rights organizations need to work at, so that they can develop mechanisms by which they can get the requisite evidence. And to do this, they must necessarily work with the police, they must work with the Internal Affairs Unit, they must work with IPOA, and all the multi-agencies which look after the police affairs, so that they can get an insider's view and a cooperative view that in the event that ABCD happens, what kind of evidence would be required to have this police officer indicted and taken action against. So in the framework that we have, because we also have Article 47, which requires that there must be fair administrative action. We have Article 50, Article 51 in terms of a fair, just system within the judiciary. So all this would turn around the evidence, but you will find that many a times the civilians who were involved in it, either they were lax in taking the evidence, or they didn't know the procedures to follow so that you can get proper recording, or they're just scared. They still live under the regime of being scared, of taking a precipitate action, thinking that something evil will
might
befall
happen.
them. Yes.
Interesting. Senior, I'd like to come to you. Under different outfits, NAMLEF to be the main one, and at some point Shura Council, you have led process of identifying those who have been abducted and forced disappearances, and even those who have been killed. What have you achieved with that, considering we had the IPOA that you clearly worked with and the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, among many other activist organizations?
First of all, let me pick up from what my brother has just said. He has very eloquently explained what the laws of this country says. And the same thing is what the minister said. On the books, there is nothing like extrajudicial killing. And even at policy level, it is not there, which is written down. Is it a reality that Kenyans are dying through extrajudicial killing? Yes, it is. Is there reinforced disappearances? Yes, it is there. Is it stopped? It has not stopped. Has it reduced? Yes, it has reduced. If you look at what was happening more than 5-6 years ago, and now there is definitely a major decline. However, we are Kenyans. This is our country, and what is there is our government. The truth has always to be told as it is. And we have to find a way to resolve these things. If the government says it is not a policy, but it's still happening, the government has to explain to the citizens who is doing it and bring those people to book.
As you have been on the process of documenting the number of people who have disappeared and the number of people who have been innocently killed, quote unquote, innocently killed, have you found anyone, have you reached to the end of it and found the culprit?
The reality is that documentation has been done in terms of disappearances. Individuals who became victims have been identified. Families have suffered. Can this be prosecuted? It's very difficult. My brother is a lawyer, he can understand these things. Whoever has been doing this thing has been doing it so craftily. I'll give you a simple example. Somebody disappears in the morning, you wait for 24 hours, you don't find him, you report to the police. The police says, we don't know anything about it. You are told to put it down, you put it down. The guys who came and picked the guys up are not in police uniform. They are driving, vehicles which don't carry GK number plates. But the question is, we have a government, we have got a security machinery in this country. Who are these people who are operating that the police don't know? It needs an explanation. So as much as people will try to say we are not involved, the finger will still be pointed at the government because they are the ones to provide security for the Kenyan people. Can you prosecute these things? You can document it over a long period of time, but to get the actual evidence and pinpoint that it is so and so and so and so who did it, it's very difficult. I don't know, my brother can
Am I getting some spirit of giving up or something?
No, we are not. We are not. As I'm telling you, first of all, we have just realized that actually it is coming down.
It has come down, but again,
it has come down.
There are cases from Human Rights Watch. At least 21 lives have been lost.
We have been speaking, just like we are speaking here. We speak through all the media.
Yes.
We see our leaders. We tell them up to the highest possible level. We don't shout. We don't shout to everybody, but we speak about it, and we lodge it, and we record it. It is coming down, and we hope that it's going to be stopped.
Maybe time to change tact, maybe.
Part of the change of the tact is right now what we are trying to do. And by the way, don't think that actually the extrajudicial killing is limited to the Muslims alone.
Yes.
If you look at Central Province, a lot of people have died who are not Muslims. If you go to Baringo, a lot of people have disappeared and died. So it's not a Muslim phenomena as at now. It has expanded. And as Kenyans, we should fight these things to stop. If there are people who are doing it, they have to be identified and they have to be brought to court.
Interesting. Interesting. Thank you so much. Senior, maybe you have
Yes.
something to add on that.
Going forward, I think what the CS had said as his commitment is that these are grievances which have been raised by the Muslim community and that they are not raised for the first time. There need to be some finality in resolving grievances. And what he did say is that he's going to form a committee which is headed by himself,
Yes.
of technical personnel, and he challenged the Muslims, us, to bring about a committee which will go sit with his committee and come up with the issues which are well known. But then what is different this time, like Sheikh Abdullahi said, is that there is a commitment to sit down and resolve them in a participatory manner.
Interesting. Something that I would
if that truly comes about and it is done correctly, and I have no doubt that it will, then a lot of these grievances would have some resolution.
It's something that I would really love to touch on, of course, and look at what is the criteria, what criteria will be used in selecting the said committee. But again, before that, we will be going on a very short break. Please do not go away, because we are going to be back after this very short break to continue with some of the discussion: betting, drug abuse, and what's the criteria of the said committee. This and much more after the break.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Are you finding difficulty to find us on Azam decoders? Rescan your Azam decoders and find us on channel 008. Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation. Wake up to exciting mornings every day. Active Jumatatu with Mohamed Obura. Tech Tuesday with Yusuf Farah. Wednesday, the special edition Business Chat with Ibtisam Jamal. All about your health on Healthy Thursdays with Mariam Mwacharo. Aisha Khan with thorny pertinent issues every Friday on the Round Table. Fresh discussions, direct probe in Sobah Show, only on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Welcome back to the third and unfortunately the last segment of the live Real Talk on the 11th day of October 2019. We are talking about the historic visit of Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i. And let's talk about matters betting. Dr. Fred Matiang'i had waged war on betting farms. Of course, when he started on grounds that they were not paying taxes. But when some legislators came out, to mention but a few, the Embakasi South, Babu Wino, came out and defended some companies like Betting Kenya and SportPesa, saying that they were tax regulatory and they were paying taxes, and even showed some certificates to the media, rather, that they were paying taxes. Now there's a change of tact, and the CS has gone out all guns blazing on war against betting farms. Sin, I'd love to take your comment on that.
Our position, first of all, is gaming is a very, very dangerous thing to happen in this country. Over the short period that actually we opened up the country to it, we have seen young people committing suicide. Children, instead of taking and going paying for school fees, they go and gamble, they lose the money, they commit suicide. We are getting addicts who are addicted to gambling and literally they are destroying their lives. Our position as Muslims is clearly known. We support the government move. Matiang'i move, we support it 100%. In fact, our position is not that actually you should withdraw some licenses. Gambling should be banned in the country 100%. The little gains that we are getting in form of taxes or sponsorship and the damage caused by gambling, it is so many times over the gains that we are getting. So because of that, we support him fully, and we support actually is not a matter of withdrawing license or reducing, but complete banning of gambling.
There are some dissenting voices from Kenyans saying that this war on gambling is quite selective. To mention but a few, Bet Lion Company, the same day, I'm talking about 7th of October, when the CS was here, and father confirmed to Muslims that he is going to remain focused on war on gambling and betting. Bet Lion, which is one of the companies, was launching a new service to actually promote the said vice. From Venice News, it is said that this Bet Lion is partly owned by Linya Chai, which is closely associated with the veteran politician Simeon Nyachai, who the Interior CS worked as the personal assistant at some point. Again, my question is this war on gambling selective in your own opinion?
Look, I wouldn't say that. As a Muslim, believe you me, I will go back to the basics of my belief. It doesn't matter whether it is selective or otherwise. What matters is there is a commitment to either control or, as the Cabinet Secretary says, to ban betting. And it's matters which are ongoing. We'll see what they will result into. But any kind of inroads towards this vice, against the vice, it is welcome. As for the conspiracy theories, there could be many which are flying around, and we would definitely like to stay clear of them. And time will tell, and matters can be held to account. There's transparency and accountability. There is nothing that can be put under the carpet. Yes.
Besides the law enforcement, that obviously the Interior CS has promised that he is going to wage war, that he has already waged war against betting as it is, and he'll do everything in his position to see that this industry goes down to its knees and eventually dies. What else can the Muslim community do, or what should the Muslim community do, beginning from the imams and the leaders and the parents?
The first move has been done by the CS, which we support. We are very, very vocal about that support. Islam is absolutely clear in terms of its position on gambling. It's completely forbidden. What we should do is accelerate that decision, give the necessary backing where it is necessary, sensitize our people from the pulpit, and so move forward and give encouragement to the government to move ahead with it. On the issue that you raised about selectively issuing licenses to some people and cancelling others, if it is true, it is very unfair. But if it has been done on those bases, what we call upon is the ones that have been issued with the new licenses, they should be cancelled. As the minister has told us, and he promised us, which we are also backing, and we told him publicly that we back that, new license should not be given out. In fact, the ones that are there should be withdrawn. However, if they want to do that gradually, because of some commitment that they have done, that should be done that gradually. But we are asking for a complete ban.
Interesting. Thanks so much. Last but not least, let's talk about matters drugs. The CS has come out strong again and waged war on drugs and drug abuse, particularly in areas that have been affected. We have some footage where the majority leader, Honorable Aden Duale, was talking about drugs. Suleiman, do you have it? Okay, all right. We will get back to that. War on drugs. Shisha has been banned, clearly, outrightly. Of course, the way the Honorable Aden Duale said that he requested the president to ban shisha, and of course he went ahead and banned it. Alhamdulillah, it's banned, but it's still being abused. is still being abused. I would not want to mention this government official that reported, say that some government officials, some police officers actually collect bribes from shisha vendors, particularly in Pangani.
My view, first of all, is all these things that we have talked about. And today we are talking about Muslims and the government. We have a duty to this country. And we have responsibilities to Allah that whatever is bad we see we should try to stop. And we are told there are 3 ways. One, if we can physically stop it. Secondly, we speak about it. The third one is to hate, which is the weakest level. This is what the tenets of our religion tell us. Drugs is a major menace to in this country, to a lot of people. It has also affected the lives of very many youth who are Muslims, particularly in the coast, but spreading throughout the country. Believe it or not, hard drugs are found in Mandera now. Hard drugs, okay? We used to talk about Mira and Sambang. We have got hard heroin, cocaine, which is coming across the border. So since it is a menace like that, let us take it that seriously. I do believe that Muslims have a major role. And when I say that, Faisal, it is not the Muslim leaders alone. It starts with you in your role, the Muslim leaders in their role, the imams in their mosques, the political leaders, and joining hands with the government of Kenya to make sure that actually every corner where we know this thing is being practiced, we go and target it, physically challenge it. We give information to the government to work on it. If there are tycoons in this country who are benefiting from this, and they are there, we know, we should identify them, boycott them, and then what we do is if they are giving harambes to us and we keep quiet for that one, we avoid that. So we have to be seen that we are practicing
What are the
Islam.
chances of that, of you avoiding the harambes, considering the tough economics situation that you're having?
You see,
or boycotting these tycoons?
Alhamdulillah, as Muslims, we have got guidelines, we have got a structure which we have been given on what to do. One of them is to avoid what is haram. And what is haram does not mean it's only pork and alcohol. Money which you get from selling drugs is haram. And if you knowingly take it, you could just as well go and start selling pork.
Seen some big names have been associated with this drug peddling before, particularly in the coast and parts of Nairobi. But again, we still glorify them and see them as role models. Of course, some of them not confirmed, or rather most of them not confirmed, but still being suspected. But again, they are our role models. They are our leaders. So that's what I'm asking. What are the chances of us actually stepping back and say that, you know what, you're suspected to have been dealing with drug issues or drug peddling, so I'm not going to engage you, or I'm not going to take anything from you? What are the chances of that?
You'll be surprised. You see, drug abuse is very rampant at the coast. And you will find that ordinary people, ordinary parents, they do speak out against it. They hate those who are suspected to be peddlers or to be the ones who really bring in the drugs and spread them around, because it is their children and grandchildren who really die from drug abuse. If you come across drug addicts, you will just feel sorry. It's a waste of humanity. So the idea that the ordinary people glorify the drug barons, that is a misconceived idea. Yes, there could be some, and most of them are these political crooks who get benefit from kowtowing to powerful people because of a few coins. Yes, there are those kind of people. But you'll find that from the pulpits, in the mosques, from streets, from houses, from neighborhoods, people hate it. Now the problem is people feel let down. They think that the system has not been doing enough to root out the vice, because it is a systemic problem. When you have suspects that the security apparatus is party, especially at the very junior level, to this kind of crime, then you get the feeling that all is lost. But believe you me, there is a widespread anger in the ordinary people, because it is their children, grandchildren. We are losing a whole generation because of drug abuse. Now, there needs to be a systemic crackdown on the way in which drugs are consumed, distributed, and then we come to the barons. But at the same time, you will find that the society itself is not telling it all. They do know which place is used as a drug den. If police can go to that place and they can get the network, they will easily reach up to the drug barons and root them out. But you'll find that also people feel very intimidated, that this network can be very vicious. There are cases also of people saying that some police officers are on the take. So it's an international problem. It's not just a problem in our shores. So to tackle drug issues, we need to have an integrated approach. We need to have the system working with the ordinary people, and there must be some kind of an environment that people will feel safe enough to come out and give names and without being known and without being retaliation. There are so many instances where back in Old Town you'll find that people are saying that wazee wa mtaa, that we've gone, we've approached the security officers, we've pinpointed the house, but then we don't see any action. And they feel now fearful that should they continue going on like that and they become exposed, then their lives could be in danger. Believe you me, these gangs are very vicious.
Thank you so much. Yes. Finally, the light is...
Before we go further, on this issue of the drug, I think it's very, very important.
Yes.
There's a drug which people take very, very lightly. Miraa is a drug, and a very dangerous drug. And it is Miraa that introduces our youth to the other more difficult drugs. Of course, I know there's a whole county which is getting revenue from this. Miraa should be addressed as a drug, should be treated as a drug, and it should be banned like all the other drugs.
Actually, some counties have gone ahead and banned the Miraa. Like Kilifi County, the MCS passed that Miraa is a drug and should not be sold.
We congratulate them, and we call upon the MCS in all those areas where they are consuming this, including Garissa, Wajir, Marsabit, Isiolo, Tana River, where we are consuming it, should take the initiative and bring legislation and let us ban this product.
Of course, based on your request that we're just about to view that, to watch that footage, my producer, is it ready? The footage by senior Abdullahi Abdi. We have it. Let's watch it.
By the display, it is our belief that your visit here today is not going to end up by the display of the beautiful structures you have seen here and the progress of Jamia Mosque. Was going to lead with an established, structured negotiation and dialogue structure that will be created. We want to work with your office. We want to have access to your office and your ministry at the national level, at the county levels, and at the constituency level, and also at the ward level, because Muslims are represented in all those areas.
Looking at positive light at the end of the tunnel. By that, we're looking at the positive light at the end of the tunnel, whereby the CS accepted to that, and he agreed that you are going to form a committee, of course, led by himself, something that you mentioned at the beginning of the show. Hence, begs the question, we have a lot of Muslim outfits, so who will make it to the committee? What criteria will be used to the committee? How soon should you expect the committee to be formed, and how soon should you expect the results?
Faisal, this is not going to be a committee that's going to represent all Muslim organizations in this country. Our feeling and our prayers are that whoever is going to be in this committee is going to represent the interest of all organizations and all the Muslims.
Hence the question.
Having said that,
yes,
we are going to choose probably a maximum of 3 or 4 people, because that is what has been requested. If we have more than that, it is going to be an assembly. It's not going to be a committee.
3 or 4 people.
3 or 4 people maximum. If we go more than that, it's going to be 5 people.
Okay.
This is a committee that is going to liaise with the office of the CS.
Yes.
Continuously raise issues of concern, bring suggestions, listen to the other side, and continue with it. First of all, it's a positive thing that it has been accepted. We are putting it to test to check how successful it's going to be. Let us start the process. We hope that the few who will be asked to take on this task are going to accept this with the responsibility as they have taken in front of Allah to serve the Ummah. we hope that they will be delivered on those bases. It should not be seen as people who have now been given positions within the government and feel that it's a status position. No, it should not be that. And we pray that it succeeds. It is the beginning of it. Let's hope it succeeds.
Criteria of selection to the people in that committee. Are we expecting people to send in their applications? If yes, where, who, how should they address it?
It will be coming from the current Muslim leadership. When you talk about that, we have got a selection of thousands of people.
Exactly. That's what I'm asking.
So what we are going to look at is whom we think that can participate in this thing. Basically, we are not going to be looking for sheikhs who are well versed in terms of ayahs of Quran, because this is socio-political issues. You must have people who are conversed in that, who will be able to participate in issues which are social and which are political. When you sit with somebody across the desk, you will be able to challenge and discuss. So that is the type of people that we'll be looking at.
And they have thousands of them in the Muslim community.
They are there.
So what criteria is going to be used to get
I think,
for at the end of the day?
The criteria is very simple,
yes.
by the way. You must be God-fearing.
How do you tell?
You can. You must be having a track record. You don't live in a vacuum. So in terms of a criteria, you need to be God-fearing. Secondly, you have to be competent. Competent in relevance to the socio-economic, political, and legal environment. And after you have the competence, you need to be courageous. Courageous in what regard? That you shouldn't be afraid. And courageous could also mean that you should have the courage so that when your personal interest conflicts with the common good, you are able to suppress your personal interest in favor of the common good, so that you don't get compromised. So those parameters and many others which will be considered by the Muslim leadership, I believe would go into the selection process. Though I am not competent to say what the process would be, but what I can say is there is no shortage of Muslims who would be able to fit this criteria.
Exactly, and that's my question. And forgive me, elders, if I appear to be quite pushing, because if you're talking about Muslim leadership, it's quite ambiguous in this case. We have Namlef, we have Jamia, we have Subkim, we have a lot of, you have the Shura Council. We have quite a number of these organizations. Then what's the criteria? Assuming, based on the criteria that you just said, we're having 15.
Yes.
What other method are you going to use to narrow down to the final 3 or 4 or 2?
Faisal, Islam has got a system to choose its leadership. It is time-tested, it's well-known. Unfortunately, we try to follow other criteria which has been introduced recently, like democracy, like the Western system and so on. Islam does not go in terms of numbers of voting, that so much is so popular, or this man is so wealthy. Islam, when you choose your leadership, you cannot know what is in somebody's heart, but you can look at the actions of an individual and the character of that particular individual. Based on that, between me and you, when we sit down, we can say, that man called Hussein can deserve to be a Muslim leader. And there are a lot of those who say outside there. So organizations will sit down, a few of us will sit down. This mandate was given to Jamia and Namlef to come up with this team. We are going to bring other organizations on board. We'll sit down with them. We are going to draw a list of probably 20 or so. Out of that, we will shortlist, come down to town, shortlist, come down to 4 or 5, and that's the list we'll forward. We'll pray that Allah gives them the guidance
Amen.
And the strength
Amen.
to be proud, to be aggressive, to be firm on their positions, and to be able to cooperate and coordinate this thing.
We so much wish to be looped in that process.
Don't look at it from the point of view that there will be many who would want to do it. I would imagine that there would be many who wouldn't want to do it unless the leadership would convince them that you have been selected and this is for the common good. So it's not a question of people who are jostling or lining up, or it's not important actually. And in terms of our Islamic belief,
yes.
Leaders do not present themselves. Even the idea of inviting applications is un-Islamic. It should be Shura sitting down, formulating a criteria and saying, you are going to represent us as the MCA of this place. Not you are proposing yourself. I want to be the MCA of this area, for example.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, if you allow me, I'll just take your parting shots. Senior.
For Faisal, my position is that, Alhamdulillah, first of all, we have got a very good country. People always don't appreciate what they have. They only recognize what they don't have. We have a very good country, which is called Kenya. We have got great opportunity in this country as Muslims. One, to propagate our da'wah. Two, for us to participate in all the facets of life of the people within this country. Let us not isolate ourselves. Let us be seen that we are participating, and this is what I asked the minister. I said we want to participate in policy making, in activities, in discussions at the national level, at the county level, going down up to the ward level. So those Muslims who are hearing us today, please know that you have got a God-given responsibility to serve your neighbors and Muslims wherever you are, to make sure that justice is upheld and that your rights are protected. So let's all stand up and do this thing for the sake of Muslims and for the sake of our compatriots who are non-Muslims in this country.
Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. Senior.
Yes, I couldn't put it better than what Sheikh Abdullahi has said. The thing is, there is a genuine move to have Muslims within the fold, the national fold. I think we should take it up and try our level best to pair up with government agencies to the best extent possible to try to resolve issues. There is a limit to agonizing. What we should be doing now is organizing. So less of agonizing and more of organizing. And I believe that given the window that has been opened, we might just be able to throw more windows open.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And before I send out my vote of thanks to the crew behind us, of course, starting from inside the studio, we have my namesake, Mr. Kassim, behind this camera. And on this other side of this other camera, we have Mr. Mohamed Sam Obura. But before that, I'd love to give my ticket to slumber tonight. And because of time, it's going to be quite short. So tomorrow in Austria, Vienna to be specific, a historic event will be taking place from 8:15 in the morning. Eliud Kipchoge, Kenyan marathoner, will be attempting to run 42 kilometers in less than 2 hours. This is to beat the previous record of 2 hours and 38 seconds that he had set before. What lesson am I picking from this? It's very simple. The only competition against you is yourself. Always strive to compete against yourself. Life is a journey with quite a number of lanes that each of us, we are all unique in our own capacities and we have our different lanes. So don't you try to compete with your neighbor who is in his or her own lane. Run your race. Compete just but against yourself. Thank you so much to the crew that made this possible. I'm looking at Professor, the only surviving professor in Horizon TV, sound engineer Mohamed Otwell. We're having my producer and director this evening, Suleiman Achasov Tumbo, Mohamed Gitonga, Hamid Salim, and Sadiq Ambitham from the gallery room. Thank you so much. This has been the live Real Talk, and I've been your host, Faisal Kassim. See you next week, same place, same time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.